We're live.
It's Senate Education Committee on the afternoon of May 12th. We have two bills with us in front of us today. Start with S227, which we worked on Friday and left council with I think just a couple of quick things to interject, and that has happened. And so for the record.
Good afternoon. Rick Sagal with the Office of Legislative Counsel. I think you have a.
If I could, I have a procedural question, what happened on the Senate floor, and probably worth saying because H955 was originally on the agenda for today, that the Senator Baumgart's chair moved to relieve the Education Committee of H955 and pass it to the Senate Finance Committee. This is two times in this biennium that the committee's efforts for essentially 4.5 months were, I guess, kind of ignored. The first time last year, this time, the senior senator from Madison moved on the floor to relieve the committee of the bill and revert back to the as-housed version. That was a big surprise, kind of upsetting at the time. Now in the Senate chamber, you've relieved the committee of the bill that we've been working on now for 2 years. And I'd just like to offer the opportunity to explain to the committee what happened and why we just wasted another 4.5 months of time on a very significant bill. And what is the expectation of what the Senate Finance Committee is going to do with this topic? And again, I'll go back to a comment I made on Friday that the Finance Committee has turned an education bill into a tax bill. What happened to our education transformation effort?
When the committee pretty clearly, yes, such limited time, the committee was divided 3-3 on Friday. The pro tem committee, I found out last night. And so the finance committee is going to take the version that we've been working on and make that the foundation. So our work is, in fact, it's the foundation. In fact, our bill will be substituted for the House bill. Let me put it that way.
Okay, well, I appreciate the explanation. I just very disappointed to again sat in committee 3 hours a day for 4.5 months, and we end up here.
But I think in some ways you can make the argument that our work is actually now the foundation going forward.
But we had that last year this time.
Organization.
I don't want to get into it.
No, but I understand.
I just want to express complete
I understand.
disappointment.
I understand. However, I hope this year is different because as opposed to last year, our work is the foundation going forward.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, thanks. So 227.
227. Share my screen. So what I've done and a little kind of procedural as well on 227 is this bill currently what the Senate has is a House proposal of amendment to review. You all don't currently have the bill in your committee. So I think it's been on the calendar for the past couple of Senate days. And so what the committee can do is suggest an amendment via straw poll that one or all 6 of you, if you wanted to, could be on the amendment. Now, what you have in front of you, all 6 of you are on here. You don't have to be. That is just how I created the draft. You can always discuss that you want to have your name removed if you don't want to be on the amendment. So it's not going to be a committee amendment, although all 6 of you are on there. It's obviously something that you all support. So that's the background for what you see. This is a proposed amendment to the House proposal amendment. Based on Friday's meeting, this is my understanding where the committee landed. And I'll go over these 2 instances of amendment. The first one, there was a question about the independent schools, and I'll go to the House language here so we can look at it in context. So we're on page 3 of the as passed by House, or the proposal by the House. This is the student information privacy section where schools and independent schools cannot collect or request information regarding citizenship, immigration, and other information. The comment I think Senator Williams brought up was independent schools. Does this mean that they have to be approved under state law? And the answer was no. The way that this bill is structured is the definition of school includes public schools and independent schools that are approved. However, in this context, this one time in the bill where this phrase independent schools is used does not imply approved. It could also mean the schools that are not approved under state law. So my suggestion.
What I just want to, maybe Mark can weigh in if I'm not understanding what you're saying correctly, but I think it's the opposite. It's that even if they don't receive public dollars, they all have to be approved to operate in Vermont under the 2200 series rules at the Board of Education.
So that may be true. I guess what I'm saying is that in this, the way this term is not defined in this bill, so we're going to the Title 16 definition of independent schools, which is not the 166 cross-reference that's used elsewhere in the bill.
Okay.
It's very
All independent schools that are operating in the state.
correct. That's the implication here,
Yeah.
because we haven't have it defined in any way. So the proposed fix is actually striking out independent and just leaving it at school. So it would say school districts and schools. The way that would work is school is defined in the bill as a public school or an approved independent school pursuant to 166 of Title 16. So you also, in case there's any confusion there, that if it's school districts and schools, right, that are prohibited from XYZ. I think that addresses, at the very least, the independent school question. And in case schools were going rogue outside of the school district policy, they would also be now included in this restriction, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's the first instance. The second instance is down in the law enforcement section, subsection D, subdivision number 2 at the top of page 5. So there was discussion about a specific area of a school, the warrant, line 4, a judicial warrant that authorizes entrance into a specific area of the school and names a specific individual located within the school who's subject to search or arrest. The proposed change is striking out authorizes entrance into, and then change that a warrant that authorizes entrance into a specific area of the school. So really just removing the term specific. And specific area, excuse me, I'm looking at 2 screens here. Striking out a specific area and replacing that with specific areas. So entrance to specific areas of the school. And then the rest stays the same. I believe that's what the committee was suggesting. Those are the 2 that I believe most of the committee were on board with.
Pretty good?
Mhm.
Be clear? Be clear? You'll be reporting this, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. All right, we have a motion to, well, actually, we don't need a motion. It's actually a matter of who wants to be on this amendment.
Right. I'd like to stay on it.
I don't object to it, but maybe I need to ask the pro tem how I should vote here in committee. Again, it's very disappointed on age 955. It's a ridiculous process. I'll hold my name off of this amendment.
So I will still have to report a vote on the floor.
No, actually, it's just going to be an amendment by 3 people who want
Okay, I thought I'm still supposed to report a straw poll.
I don't think so, just the people on the side.
Okay.
It's optional. It's optional.
Okay. Well, I mean, I could run into issues on the floor if we don't have a straw poll and I'm supposed to represent how the committee feels about it and Terry's not here, right?
There is not here.
So what if we did the straw poll on the amendment, supporting it first, and then people can decide about, I mean, it could just be my name. It doesn't have to have anybody else's name on it.
Yeah, you're right. We probably should have a straw poll. So, those in favor of suggesting these changes, of concurring with further proposal of amendment as shown here, I guess raise your hand. 5-2.
Okay, 501.
So you want to just do it as one person? Or do you want to have the 3 on, or probably better if it's just you?
Yeah, it is. It just
Yep.
doesn't
Okay.
fight weird.
Okay, let's straw poll 5.
Yeah.
Just Senator Runkelsbaum.
Mhm. Unless, it was Senator Hashim's brilliant editing a specific
I
area.
already marked his name out on my paper, so I think we're gonna.
Okay.
I'm happy to add you back on. Let me know.
No, I'll just be me.
Okay, so then, thank you.
Thank you.
Put them down. So then we're on to H 650.
Yeah, so once again, Rick Sagal with the Office of Legislative Counsel. I have draft 3.1 of H 650. Your printout may show May 1st. I did not go back in time. It's supposed to be May 11th, just forgot the extra 1 on the date. So I have corrected that with the committee assistant. Okay, so no changes to page 1 of the bill. That's still a technical correction that has not been changed.
So, actually, let me interrupt Rick. Rick and I talked yesterday to
Mhm.
make sure we were ready for today
Yep.
and talked about where we thought we left off, and then I thought about a couple of things just to try out here.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully it'll help. Okay, sorry.
Okay, it helps. Page 2, there is a highlight on the section heading. I mentioned last time I left the phrase enforcement on the section heading. So because the committee removed enforcement, I also removed enforcement off the section heading. That's why it's highlighted. On page 3, so that's the only change to section 1, is that just the enforcement technical change. No other changes to the registration system that you would be implementing. Section 2 is the 2-year pause on chatbots in schools. The word pause is highlighted. It replaces prohibition. The chair and I spoke. It seemed like pause made more sense based on the way the language is going. And at the bottom of page 3, the intent section, the original or the last version made it sound like all chatbots are causing children to engage in academic dishonesty. Didn't want that implication out there. So certain chatbots have caused change in language a little bit there in the intent section. On page 4, reworking the intent language further on lines 2. Therefore, the General Assembly enacts a 2-year pause on the usage of chatbots, with principals and heads of schools having the authority to exempt chatbots they deem to be educationally warranted. And this pause will provide schools with the opportunity to research, test, and endorse certain chatbots to ensure the safety of students. Reflecting what's to come here in the actual exemptions, exceptions part of the section. No change in the prohibition. No student shall use, or no school shall allow a student to use a chatbot until June 30th, 2028. And then in the subsection C, subdivision 1, a school principal or head of school shall have the authority to grant an exception to the prohibition, provided that the chatbot is educationally warranted. There was additional language there that had the principal or head of school tracking each ed tech that they approved, and then sending that list to the AOE upon the AOE requesting the list of the exempted chatbots. That's been removed. No other change to subdivision 2 or in the definitions. There's one thing I want to note. Going back to the exceptions. The education warranted that previously was the chatbot is strictly necessary for educational purposes. So I think it's a pretty big change. Very, very narrow exception previously. Now it's much more of the opinion of the principal or head of school that they believe that the chatbot is warranted educationally. Okay, like I said, no other changes to the chatbot section. The working group section, a few changes on page 6. Subdivision 1 had the working group consult with the superintendents, which they're already part of the consultation on lines 3 and 4. So I didn't think it made sense to consult them again. They're already part of the overall working group's task. So just creating that list of ed tech products. You have AOE, the Superintendent Association, and the Independent Schools Association already being consulted. Number 2 is being added. This was in the AOE study as it came from the House. And the committee last time decided probably should include that in the working group's task is to review the registrations. There may not be a lot of registrations because this will take effect July 1st. So when this working group meets in the fall, you may not have a whole lot of registrations, but maybe you have more than you expect. Number 4 is new. Recommend whether students or parents of students should have the right to opt out of using education technology products as part of their education. That was a committee suggestion last time. And number 5 is new, but it's really just kind of structuring the rest of the tasks because 5 is all about ed tech certification. And I didn't want that to get kind of confused in the rest of the list. So the working group really has a few things. They're going to create a list of ed tech products, consult the Secretary of State about the registration of those companies doing that technology, interviewing stakeholders about safety of ed tech products, the opt-out provision, whether that makes sense for parents to be able to opt their student out, their children out of using ed tech, and then finally the certification of ed tech. So to me, there's 4 or 5 different major tasks of this working group. And those are the changes. The act would still take effect, like I said, July 1 of this year. It is a strike all amendment, so just want to make sure that's clear as well.
Questions, thoughts?
I think it's a good piece of legislation.
So you're happy with those suggestions? We want one place on this, would we change prohibition to pause? And then we use the word prohibition again on page 4. Should that say pause?
For the section heading,
Line 7.
line 7. Yeah, I don't know if you just want to use the word pause, but you could use maybe chatbot usage, pause of chatbot usage, something. I don't think the word pause works the same as prohibition, but I see.
Maybe it doesn't matter. Well, actually, why don't we try that? What you just.
Sure.
So what was it?
Just off the top of my head, chat usage of chatbot pause or chatbot usage pause, one of those. Okay.
Point of a vote?
I don't think we can do any more work on it.
What's up the motion?
I would move to vote draft 3.1 out favorable.
With that little handwritten change on page 4, line 7, crossing out the word prohibition and adding instead saying chat box usage pause.
So it'd be 3.2.
3.2.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, Terry normally does the roll, right? So we can just, maybe Senator Hushain can do it. Yeah, if you have it ready.
I could, just a few words. I understand the intent of the bill. I find it a bit founded on unfounded fears, and a bit reactionary. I'm going to vote no, and I'll explain why. I only support the efforts of the working group to look at these questions as opposed to introducing prohibitions and such prior to the working group's reports. Just wanted to explain that. I do appreciate the effort on it.
Not for the sake of trying to change my term, just the hope is that we found the middle ground with allowing the principal of any school to.
I just don't believe a principal needs to be evaluating every piece of software coming through the school that might or might not contain a chatbot. I just think teachers with their consult of their leadership team can figure out which, in the interim of the working group's results, what should or shouldn't be used.
I would just say in a different light, Senator Williams isn't here, but he was seeking the opt-out. I think this is in between being reactionary and trying to figure out how to reject a lot of things whole cloth, and, trying to recognize that even I even talked to some of our stakeholders who are represented in emails we received, who indicated today they agree the technology is changing very quickly. Most schools are using a handful of tools where it would be wildfire national news if they changed how they operate all of a sudden, like Google Classroom. But that if it's not a good place for experimentation and for trying things out, especially with our younger kids. So I just think it's something right now, as we try to figure out who a good actor is in this space, that we are monitoring and paying close attention, and someone can answer to parents at school board meetings who have questions about something their kid's coming home with, et cetera.
Okay, I understand. We all understand where we are. So,
Ready to go?
yeah,
Senator Hashim, yes. Senator Heffernan,
AOE said they had a pretty good handle on this, and I've been tormented ever since they said that at the beginning. And
Have you talked to them since?
have I talked to them since?
Yeah.
No, not really. Did you?
Yeah, I would say I've tried to talk to all the stakeholders about what they do feel like they have a good handle on.
Mhm.
A lot of what they kept referring to was partnering with VitaLearn and SPDC, I believe, which is a national consortium on data privacy. We looked at things that have ISD certification, that I thought were not appropriate for a lot of aged kids. So I would say they were referring to a lot of tools that they don't take responsibility for the quality of those tools.
And
That's what we heard from AOE when we.
I guess I can agree with that statement. And then I think about what Senator Weeks says is that, we entrust our teachers to make the right choices in that. Now we're saying, well, maybe not. We need the principal to give the final okay to see if them are my concerns with it. I'll say yes for now, but I do have a lot of concerns about it. And when it comes to a floor vote, it might not be so willing.
Thanks for getting it on a committee.
Senator Rom Hinsdale,
Yes.
Senator Weeks.
No.
Senator Williams, Senator Baumgartz.
Yes.
So that is 4-1-1.
Got out of committee either way. I've been for.
And who's the reporter?
I'm happy to report it if you'd like to.
So that's all we have. Hope it's come back to the house. But we'll be together.
I kind of echo what Senator, this is only my first term, but it's very discouraging that this body worked very hard last year and believed we had a go out for education change. And the powers to be took that away from us. And it sometimes wonder why you're even here if they're going to make up their mind after the fact of all the work as bipartisan group that we do. It's very frustrating, I'll have to say.
A wise mentor of mine who was the member from Rutland Town, Joe Baker, said to me my first year in the building, if you can't pour your heart and soul into something and throw it away after 6 months, you can't be here. I took that very seriously because nothing's ever alive or dead. It just changes form. And I think for newer folks, that's harder to appreciate, but you always have the opportunity to revive any language, any concept. It doesn't die, but it does require work outside of the committee process to really get something across the finish line.
A true statement. Never
Can
seen.
I add something too? I'm not in any way trying to invalidate what you guys are raising here. There's been plenty of times I've been frustrated with folks here, but I think I'm kind of genuinely, honestly confused because it seemed like from the very beginning of the session, the expectation was that there absolutely would be other committees looking at the bill, which is pretty typical for something that touches different jurisdictions. I mean, S-193, which is a bill I worked on in judiciary for probably 3 months. That's gone through 2 different committees in the Senate, and now it's in 4 different committees in the House, which was to be expected. But, it seemed like it would be expected that this bill that involves a lot of finance jurisdiction would absolutely be going to finance.
Well, of course it would. 2/3 of the bill is there. It's tax bill.
Yeah.
It's the 1/3, which is about education transformation, which was really what we were trying to focus on, which
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like we had
God knows.
did our work.
That, our work is the bill. That's what's being taken up in finance.
I try to tell everybody that everything happens in the last 2 days of the second year of the biennium. Everything, all the hard work you put in before that can inform those last 2 days, but you have to really prepare yourself for anything being possible. And it just doesn't all get presented to you in committee.
Well, I've literally had stuff blow up in my face. So it's like, it's not that big. It's a big deal that the heart and soul that you put into it and then have that mean nothing. It's like we sat through the committee meetings. We listened to the testimony. We did all this and then it gets handed off to people that did not listen to the same testimony that we have had for 2 years. So, and I know Joe Baker as well. Hopefully he's going to be back next year. And I get that. That is a lesson to learn, but it's still, I enjoy working with all of you. And you and I sometimes bump heads quite a bit. But we work it out and come to something good, and then it goes to another committee, and that's the way it is.
And then it goes to a conference committee.
Presumably, finance isn't touching our education policy stuff in the same way that we didn't touch the finance tax stuff.
Right.
So
But as I understand it, the changes we made did go over there. So we're no longer calling them CISA sections, they're just groups. CISA is mandatory.
Because, no, we never made those changes.
I thought we had.
It was the last draft.
Yep.
Anyone can also bring an amendment to the committee that has possession of a bill. I mentioned I plan to do that on some things that I didn't get to finish on special education, so.
So
You have tools in your toolbox.
Okay, we will be back together, maybe, I don't know if it's tomorrow or the next day, let's come over.
Oh, okay.
So,
Can I make a request
Yeah.
that Daphne send us a calendar invite when those things happen? Because that makes it easier for me to track.
we may not know until the day of, so it was.
No, I mean, like, it could be 20 minutes over, but.
I always.
think a calendar invite would be very helpful.
But, okay, we're adjourned.